messed up for today. Um, there's my face. Yeah, no, it's a good question. I should think about this. Yeah. Oh, by the way, apologies for the ads, but it looks like the history department will get about $75 from this Twitch feed. So thanks, folks, for subscribing and whatever. I know that you had to endure the ads. I'm glad you didn't. Nobody really had to pay anything. But with the Twitch, yeah, that's $70 I got, and so I'll donate that to the history department. I also want to. This is Thank a Donor Day at Georgia, and I'm a UGA Athletics Association professor. That means that the UGA Athletics Association pays for me to have a little bit of extra research money and a little bit of extra time to do research every year. And yeah, so I am extremely grateful for that. And so that's the my doggone grateful saying the UGA Athletics Association has sort of made it possible for me to get stuff done. Thanks. Yeah, no, it's awesome, and it allowed me to travel to Istanbul, and it allows me to travel to Kansas and to California and other places where there are archives. So it's helps me not just as a researcher, but also as a teacher. So yeah, and unfortunately I know nothing about sports. So as you'll be able to see in a sec when I do in a few minutes when I do the Fortnite dance using my body. Oh, is that right? Excellent. Mood. Okay, let's talk about some final questions. Now, remember that this third exam is worth the same as the other two. So this is not a traditional final exam where it's a sort of worth 40% of the grade. It's worth the same amount as the other two exams. And I think, as you saw on the email that I sent out, because I had to move around some things in ELC to make sure that the other averages worked out properly, your average for the exams looks a little bit funky, but if you take that percentage number and multiply it by 1.5, that gives you a sense of what your exam average is. The other way to get your exam average is, of course, to average those two numbers. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I liked it too. And actually, I have to say, thanks to you guys for all the questions and the comments and whatever. I feel like my lectures are better for you, for your questions and for your observations and things like that. I really have enjoyed this format a lot, and I've learned a lot from you guys about how to sort of tell a story better, but also how to kind of think about, explaining it. And so thanks to you guys for putting up with this, and I think the lectures are much less formal and much more fun in this context. Okay. All right, so questions. Here are some questions. Now, one of the things about this textbook is, as we get further on, there are different authors in each of these chapters. And the earlier authors had fairly strong opinions, some of which I disagreed with, as you've seen. The later authors, whoever wrote the period for this last one, basically covered all the bases. So basically, it's like a laundry list of explanations. And so my explanations overlap with this person's explanations, although I would say that in the textbook, that if you read one page, you get one explanation. If you read another page, you get another explanation. So I feel that's a little bit confusing, but I've got the page numbers here. Okay, so first, this is the big question, obviously, what's the coming of the war? And there are two different explanations for what the coming of the war is in the book. One is sundering of religious ties, widening cultural differences, north and south, and continuing political conflicts. So that's a messy, kind of sloppy explanation for the coming of the war, but that's what you see on page 460 is those three things, almost a laundry list. But then on 439, there's another explanation, which is conflict between Americans over whether new states should be organized with or without slavery. That's a much more concrete explanation for the coming of the war. It's all about slavery in both cases. But in the second case, the conflict is over how you're going to expand to the West. What do people think about that question? And how would you start to try to answer that question? Remember, what you want to do is sort of take account, just like in any argumentative essay, you don't want to ignore the alternate position, so you want to just mention it or at least gesture to it, and then sharpen yours. So what do people think about this as a question? I've got 5 sample questions, so but that in a way it covers the war for Texas. No, I think so. That's a good question, and I would say basically that my argument is more the second argument, right? That it's a conflict over slavery that boils down to conflict over westward expansion of slavery. So, so basically, the Texas War, the war for Texas, the shrinking of the Whig Party, the Republican Party trumping or defeating the Know Nothing Party. You know, so there's a way for me. The coming of the war has a lot to do with conflicts over California, over Texas, over things like that. So that's one question. It's a kind of a broad question. I don't love it, but that's one of the questions. I'll post this on ELC as soon as this class is over, so you can get a sense of it. All right, here's another one. This is about the war itself. Oh, sorry about the cutoff there. How did the U.S. succeed in Europe? Was it the failure of cotton? Oh, sorry, that's ungrammatical. Was it the failure of cotton diplomacy and the success of the Emancipation Proclamation? That's the argument in the book. Or was it access to over 500 million in foreign credit through bonds? And my argument is it has more to do with bonds. And if you were going to talk about, you'd talk about Jefferson Davis, you talk about repudiation in 1841 and 1843. You talk about the idea that to fight a war with tens of thousands, hundreds of over 100,000 soldiers on both sides. In fact, nearly 1 million on the Union over the course of the war. That you need bonds, you need to be able to sell debt, you need to be able to borrow money in Europe, and to do that, Lincoln was much more successful than the Confederacy. Oh, totally, yeah. So, because, right, the Republican Party is the party, it's not the party of freedom exactly, it's a party of no slavery in the West. That's the platform of the Republican Party. And the Democratic Party is basically, there's the Southern Democratic Party and the Northern Democratic Party, and the Southern Democratic Party is committed to the expansion of slavery, and the Northern Democratic Party is committed to the basically the support for slavery. So yeah, it's definitely a political conflict, because when Lincoln is inaugurated as president, he's a Republican. He doesn't have to, because he's won, he doesn't have to kowtow to the Democrats at all. So yeah, that argument is just me. So in this case, this is just my argument about the foreign credit through bonds. And I didn't mention the number, I actually looked it up. And so it's basically $500 million that the U.S. is able to borrow from Europe over the course of the war. And I talk about that over a couple of lectures. When I talk about the debt problem, when I talk about the Walker tariff that starts to make the U.S. look like a much better lender, and when I talk about how Jefferson Davis, his support for his willingness to repudiate Mississippi debt means that Europeans will not lend to the Confederacy, but they will lend to the Union. Does that make sense? Okay, so that one is really me or the book, much more. And I would say, it's the other two aren't crazy. Like the success of the Emancipation Proclamation is absolutely true. Failure of cotton diplomacy is sort of true. But I would say that an important argument, at least in my camp, is that it's access to credit that makes it possible to fight this war. The Union gets 500 million. Yeah, the Confederacy doesn't. It basically has the Erlanger loan, which is a few $1 million, but it's the Union that gets 500 million. They won't lend to the Confederacy. I talked about this over a previous class. Is that Jefferson Davis is the president of the Confederacy, and Jefferson Davis endorsed, basically said Mississippi doesn't have to pay its debts, shouldn't have to pay its debts. He says this after Mississippi repudiates its debts. And then the Union is able to use that against Jefferson Davis in Europe. And they publish these pamphlets and things like that John Bigelow and others publish these pamphlets that say, this guy is a repudiator in chief. This guy does not pay his debts. Yeah. Oh, I see. U.S. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Okay. Apologies. Apologies. Um, Thanks, Bree, and thanks, Emily. I wasn't realizing what you were saying. Yes, yes, yes. That makes much more sense. Sorry about that. I was not looking at the first sentence. Right. Um, yes, the Union succeed in Europe. Okay. Does that make more sense? Apologies for that. The belt buckle says U.S. for Union troops, but of course, there are states in the South. So how did the Union succeed in Europe? Uh, yeah. Okay. Uh, During the Civil War. So the question there is not actually why the Union succeeds, because that's another question. That really is about military conflict. That's about capturing bases and all those other sorts of things. Um, but but it succeeded in Europe, which was important, I think, because of not so much cotton diplomacy, not so much foreign credit. Not so much the success of the Emancipation Proclamation, although it did matter. It was $500 million in foreign credit through bonds. Yeah, repudiation is so if you're in default, like Greece was in default in 2008, it can't pay its bills, and it says we've issued these bonds and we're supposed to pay everybody, but we don't have it. We're defaulting. Repudiation is we're not going to pay any of this. You gave us $500 million. We're not paying squat. And the explanation that governor gave in Mississippi and Arkansas and places like that and Florida was that Jews held the bonds or something like that. So basically they were lent all this money and then they repudiated the debt, or said that they would never pay it back. Eventually Florida and Arkansas did pay it back in the 1880s. Mississippi has never paid it back, and the rate to borrow money in Mississippi is still like 1 percentage point above every other state in the Union. So repudiation is basically they owed thousands of people all over Europe, mostly, who bought Mississippi bonds and those things. So they bought those bonds, and Jefferson Davis repudiated. So it's the governor that repudiated the debt, the state that repudiated the debt, but Jefferson Davis supported repudiation, and so that's why the Union called him the repudiator in chief in Europe. Does that make sense? Oh, can I remember which lecture that was in? Yeah, give me a sec. A little bit of it was in 24, Texas annexation and the decline of the Whig Party, where I talk about the states that repudiated their debt, and the other one is 25, which is not is here on Twitch, but is not yet uploaded, and that was April 20th. And then a little bit of it was actually in the 24, 25, and 26. 26 also, where I talk about the difference. So 24, 25, and 26. I talk about it in pieces. Okay? Other questions? All right. So that's another question. That one's sort of me or the book. It's more about debt. For those of you who are finance majors or who think, I know that the finance majors like the money ones, and so I was thinking that's, or other econ majors, or some of you who are engineers or others kind of like to think about money and where it goes and how important it is as the sort of wheels that turn American history. That's a good question for you if you want to bite into that. Okay, this one's a little more political and a little more straightforward. Why did the Whig Party fail? Was it opposing a popular war, which is what they say on 441? Was it undone by conflict over slavery, which is what they say in 450? Or the actions of President John Tyler, which they don't mention at all? Now, you could argue that it's two or three of these, and one solution is to say conflict over slavery was first, Tyler was second, and opposing a popular war was third. So there's a way in which you can sort of talk about all three of those things. Why do we care that the Whig Party failed? Because many people say that the failure of the Whig Party helps get us to the Civil War. But that's a more straightforward political question. This is not a question really about the Civil War. It's more a question about why the Whig Party collapsed. And now you'll remember that in the lecture, I do partly blame John Tyler, but I also mention, and I think it's important, opposing a popular war. I would not disagree that undone by the conflict over slavery is a crucial point in that, but it's not explained particularly well in the book, I don't think. That's right. That's right. You could kind of complain 1 and 2. So the war, yeah, the war over Texas was kind of a war about slavery. If I had to sum it up for my argument, I would say, yeah, that basically, what is his name? Oh, goodness. Polk. That James K. Polk prosecutes a war, basically promises war, a war for expansion. He's elected as president. The war for expansion ends up being a war over Texas, and that when the Whig Party opposes the war, it's one thing before the war happens, but once the war takes place, once the United States soldiers are fighting in Mexico, opposing the war is very bad for a political party, just the way it was for the Federalists during the War of 1812. So that's an important feature, but of course, so you know, I think of this as in two steps. The Whig Party starts to collapse, and then there are two parties that come to replace it: the Know Nothing Party and the Republican Party, and the Republican Party ultimately wins. So this is a question about that first part. Why does the Whig Party fall apart? And partly it's about slavery, but why does the Whig Party fail because of slavery? You know, the Whig Party increasingly looks like an anti-slavery party when they say that this is a war for slaveholders. So Southern slaveholders, maybe who have been in the Whig Party, are somewhat alienated by that criticism. Yeah, that was more in the Texas. That was 24, I would say. Let me just. Yeah, that would be 24. Yeah, that would be mostly in 24. Yep. Okay. Other questions? Okay, here's another. Oh, geez, look at that. Oh, what actions did Tyler? Basically, he was a president who had been a vice president. The president dies, and what does Tyler do? But basically veto the bank bill, refuse to even really communicate with other members of the Whig Party. His entire cabinet resigns. He replaces all the cabinet members with Southerners, with Southern slaveholders. So this alienates the Whig Party. No, this is more. So Tyler is the 1840s, and the Civil War is 1860s. So this is really before the Mexican War even, and that's the actions of Tyler. So I would say that the Whig Party is on the skids, so to speak, by 1845 or 1846, and basically Tyler's presidency is an important part of the failure of the Whig Party. It's not the only explanation. The party does become increasingly sectional because of Texas, the war over Texas. Opposing a popular war is a bad thing, but it's different from the rich man's war and poor man's fight, which is really about That's really about the American Civil War, and that's really after the universal conscription of every white man over the age of 21 or 18. Every white man over the age of 18 is considered in the Confederate Army by 1862, and that's when people start to complain because other people get exemptions. Okay, this is a big question. This is a question that every military historian is going to disagree with me about, but whatever. That's why I'm here to make my dad's favorite book was Don Quixote, and I like tilting at windmills myself. So why did the Union defeat the Confederacy? Was it the capture of Vicksburg and Sherman's march to the sea? That's the more or less what we get out of the textbook for that. It's basically the capture of Vicksburg, which splits the Confederacy in half, and then Sherman's march to the sea, which destroys much of Georgia and then South Carolina plantations, which lead to chaos. It doesn't explain exactly why Sherman's march to the sea does this. That's right. This is the fourth question I've shown. So, wait. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, this is the fourth. Okay. So why did the Union defeat the Confederacy? Was it the capture of Vicksburg and Sherman's march to the sea, which is basically just an account of military events, or did it follow from the Union's shift to using enslaved people as assets? And that is my Civil War lecture, basically. That's when I talk about logistics and military intelligence and morale, and how when the Union uses enslaved people as assets for the first time, then intelligence gets better, logistics gets better, and morale gets better. And that this is an important reason for why the Union is victorious in the war. So mine is more of a kind of an infrastructure story. It's more of a kind of social history story, a story about all the people involved in the war, not just the soldiers themselves. The first one is more about the soldiers themselves, and you could, again, there's no right answer to this. You could argue that this is really a soldiers' war, and that the question of slavery mattered. Let's see. I haven't quite caught up. So 24 in my uploads. I apologize for that. So let's see. 24 was Texas. So that means that 25 was basically the Republican election, and 26 was the difference freedom made. Yeah, why is the book? It's basically it's a story about effects and not causes, I think, right? It is true that the capture of Vicksburg and Sherman's march to the sea were absolutely crucial in forcing the Confederacy to surrender. But that's not a story of cause. That's just like saying, I walked and ran into the wall. Well, you ran into the wall because you were walking. Well, yes, but I was also, had my eyes closed, and it was having your eyes closed that causes you to walk into the wall. So yes, Vicksburg and Sherman's march to the sea are events that happen when the Union wins. But the question, why did the Union defeat the Confederacy? Vicksburg and Sherman's march to the sea don't really answer that, I don't think. Right? That's my sense. There are other explanations for this. Jefferson Davis says it's basically the superiority of military logistics that allows the Union to win. There are other people who have other explanations. One is morale gets worse in the Confederacy. One is the rich man's war and the poor man's fight leads to a conflict in the Confederate lines. So there are a bunch of explanations for why. None of those is in the book. So the book has no real, I don't think, any real story about the reason for the Civil War. We end really quickly. We get to the Civil War and out of the Civil War really quickly, I think, in this book. And basically all we're told is one damn thing after another. You've heard that expression? History is a story of one damn thing after another. That's to me what the telling of this story is yes, there was a capture of Vicksburg, and yes, there was Sherman's March to the Sea, and yes, those two events allowed the Union to defeat the Confederacy. But you still haven't told me why the Union defeated the Confederacy. You've just told me two things that happened on the road to the defeat of the Confederacy. There are some other starts, other things like differences in which I mentioned, which is basically real differences in industrial capacity. Could you briefly explain? Okay, if we talked about the English. Oh no, you could use all three. You could use, or you could pick one that's more important, that you think is more significant. The Union. So that's in the chapter in the lecture I called "The Difference Freedom Made," and it's basically when the Union starts to allow enslaved people to cross the lines and then use them as workers, allow them to go into camps and not return them to the South. And so that's a way in which there are 2 million enslaved people in the South. And the Confederacy views those people as assets at the beginning of the war, as people who are going to feed the Confederate Army. And the Union starts to use those assets when they gradually embrace the end of slavery in the South. And that, to me, is not Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. That's Congress that does that with the Emancipation Acts, starting in 1861. So that shift is starting in 1861, but it's very decisive by 1863. That basically Lincoln says, if you're if you're a Confederate slave owner and you're in a state that's in secession, none of those people that you own will you own anymore. So that's how enslaved people are used as assets, because they fight in the war. They act as spies for the Union Army. They act as in a way disrupt the Confederacy's ability to support itself. Does that make sense? All right. And the fifth. Okay. And again, it's off this. It's a little hard to read because of the colors there. Why did the Republican Party defeat the Know Nothing Party as the Whig replacement? And that was it sectional tension over expansion, or was it Kansas, the caning of Charles Sumner, and the Panic of 1857? So basically, the book does tell the story of the Republicans defeating the Know Nothing Party, although they don't talk much about it. They tell you about the Know Nothing Party, that it was a nativist party. They tell you about the Republican Party, that it's opposed expansion of slavery to the West. But they don't really explain why one defeats the other. What they say a little bit later on is that sectional tension over expansion, the Know Nothing Party couldn't respond to it. Okay? Which is, not untrue. It's not untrue. And but I have three slightly more specific events that I think helped explain why the Republicans succeeded. One was Kansas, and the fighting over Kansas, bleeding Kansas, when Republicans' story about a slave power conspiracy seems to be coming true. The second is the caning of Sumner, which also seems to be when the Republicans say there is a slave power that controls Congress, and then we see somebody caned in Congress, a northern senator. Senator Charles Sumner. Yeah, I think so. Basically, someone in Congress beaten by a pro-slavery person. It does seem to suggest that that there is a slave power at work. And then the Panic of 1857, which the South and many Southern congressmen like James Henry Hammond and others say, "Ha, that's your problem. The North is doing badly. There's high unemployment in the North. So what? We don't care. Cotton was going to survive King Cotton will prevail over all. You're dependent on us. We don't really care about this Panic of 1857, and we're not going to support any legislation that's going to try to resolve it. Yeah, basically the Whig Party collapses. I would argue, in 1845 or 46. The question is who's going to defeat them: the Republicans or the Know Nothings? And so basically the Republicans. Oh, I see. Okay, how do the Republicans? I see. So both. Oh, okay. The Republicans and the Know Nothing Party each wanted to replace the dying Whig Party. Whoops. What allowed the Republicans to prevail? How's that? Is that better? Thank you again for that question. Okay, so that's better. Thank you for asking that, because I think a lot of people would have been confused on that issue. Okay, for the TAs that are here, I'm assuming the TAs are here. Given those questions, which would you most like to see, guys? And which do you worry about? Yeah, Steve likes 4, 4 and 5. I'm not okay. Question 4 looks fantastic. 1, 3, 4. 1, 3, 4. Yeah, all of you guys. Yeah, I'd like to know what you think. Bill's agnostic. Okay, Teddy doesn't like 5, 3, and 4. 4. Okay, that's 4. 4 and 5. 4. 1 and 4. Not big on 5 either. Okay. Okay. So that's 5. Tell me about why 3 and 4, 1 and 4. Okay. 2, not so much. Yeah. Maybe rewording at 5. Okay. 2 and 4. Okay. Was the Civil War? So I'll briefly go through them. 4 is very straightforward. Okay. Was the Civil War brought by the sundering religious ties, widening cultural differences? That's number 1. Or was it conflict between Americans over whether the new state should be organized without slavery? That's a massive question in a way. How did the Union succeed in Europe? This is not getting a lot of love. Will likes it. Not getting a lot of love, I think. Bree likes it. Okay. This is 3. Why did the Whig Party fail? Was it opposing a popular war? Undone by conflict over slavery or the actions of President John Tyler? That's number 3. Oh, you like... That's 4. Why did the Union defeat the Confederacy? Captured Vicksburg, or did it follow from Union shift? And 5, the Republican Know Nothing Party each wanted to replace the dying Whig Party. What allowed them? Okay, so Teddy, you also like 2. Okay. 1 is a mouthful. Okay. All right. I'm sensing. Tell me, Teddy. Tell me about how you would reword number 2. How did the Union succeed in Europe during the Civil War? Yeah, I won't give you 5. I'll give you fewer than that. So to choose from. Still 1 and 4. Natia, thank you. Oh, you like 1. Okay. All right. Thank you, Natia. Jared likes 1 and 5. 4 and 5 align well with the lectures. Okay, that 3 one I thought was simpler, but it might be too. Okay, I'm getting a sense that some people like 2, 4, and 5, 2, 3, and 4. All right. Let me just see if I can set up a quiz here. Can I do this? Oh, I can't. I tried setting up a quiz. It's complicated. Yeah, let me just give it a shot. It's not easy to do in. Okay. There might be a little of echo. I have to log into twitch.tv myself. Hopefully not. All right. And reader dashboard. And manage poll. Oh, and of course they changed it, didn't they? Stream. Oh, there we are. Manage poll, right? Okay. So I'm going to write, just as a reminder, sundering 2 is diplomacy. 3 is failure. 4 is victory. 5 is okay, I'm going to start the poll. All right. Back over to OBS. All right, can you guys see the poll? Good. No? Oh, no. Oh, it's at the top of the chat. Okay. Good. Oh, there's still time. Okay. I can see. Oh, is it already showing you how people are voting? Wow, the tension's up. Oh, geez. It's very divided. Okay, well, if it's super divided, then I might just um, do one but one or something like that. But that's interesting. It's super divided. We've still got a little over a minute. 68%. Interesting. The heat is on. Alicia C. Alicia, this is not Alicia Cromwell, is it? Alicia C. 466. I know another Alicia Cromwell, but that's a Ochala. Okay, cool. Okay, there's somebody who's a recent PhD named Alicia Cromwell. So awesome. All right, just a few seconds left. Four is by far interesting. Okay, it's funny that you guys can see the results and I can't see the results, but go now. All right. Oh yeah, view results. Wow. Okay. 4, cause of Union victory. 3, Whig failure. So 4, 3, 2, and then 1 and 5 are not. Interesting. All right. Well, that gives you a sense, I think, of. So it looks like 4, 3, and 2 have the most votes, and 1 and 5 only have 3. Yeah, 4 had 53 votes, 3 had 14 votes, and 2 had 6 votes, and then 1 and 5 each had 3 votes. Your second choice, okay. All right. So that's interesting. I can't. So I will probably. There's a good chance I'll drop either 1 or 5. I'll also check with the GAs to see what they think. I think people found 5 to be too complicated and maybe too long. Is that fair? That but cause of Union victory is a good one, I think, and it's a good takeaway. I do think Whig failure, understanding something about politics, is useful too, and I get why some of you don't want to do bonds and why some of you do. So okay, all right. Are there other questions? I will post this PowerPoint. Okay, OTAs be in a good mood. So remember again that this, it's about the obviously I know you're thinking about the grade, but to me this essay exercise is really an effort to improve your kind of superpower skills in persuading other people of something. And writing a persuasive essay, a short persuasive essay, is absolutely vital life skill. I think that if you're going to do anything that involves kind of mental labor, you're going to be asked to make a report on something and persuade people of your position, and so this I think really helps improve. Yes, thank you for all the hard work. But this is really, and that's why I think the feedback from the TAs is so helpful, just to give you help you think about how to improve that muscle about how to make an argumentative argument, how to make an argument, and how to persuade other people of something. Right. All right. Excellent. So now, oh God, this is me trying to do. I had this idea that those things were the Fortnite dances were easy, but I'm gonna do a terrible job with this. But bear with me. I think I'm gonna have to move this up, and you're gonna have to recognize that I was. I think the one PE class I had to take in high school was gym. Oh, I had to take gym in high school, and my and in high school, we did volleyball. That was the class that I took, and I was tall. Right, I'm 6'5", so I was tall, and everybody at first wanted me on their team until they saw me hit the ball, and then that was it. No one wanted me on their team after that, and from then on they called me Toots. So yeah, 6'5" is tall. All right, so yeah, this is. I tried to get the green screen working, but it's not doing an especially good job. And all right, okay. Now let me just get this. The running man is okay. Now left, right, left, and then over. Oh God! Right, left, right. Apologies for not being able to do the running man very well, but it's impossible. I am the least. Okay, one more time. 1, 2, 3. Wait a second. It's back. And then up and over. And then. Oh. Apologies. I gave it my best shot. There you are. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for a great semester. Thanks. You guys are great. Thank you for suffering through this COVID class with me. This has been an awesome class. Oh, please do teaching evaluations on ELC. Also, rate my professors is also great. But yeah, I wish this class was in person too. I'm in LeConte Hall and I'll be there in the fall. So if you want to come by in the fall and just knock on my door and come visit me, that would be awesome. Okay, thanks everybody. I'm gonna miss you guys too. Yeah, please do come by. I'd like to see you. Or if you see me around, I'm easy to spot because I'm very tall. And yeah. Oh, building name is LeConte, Leconte, on North Campus, just north of the North-South Divide. Thanks, everybody. This has been an awesome semester. LeConte. You guys have been great. Thanks for everything. All right. Have a great summer, and yeah, I will be around here. Thanks. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye. Oh, please do pack back for this week if you can. This will help people who are just if you've already got 2, I'm dropping the first. I'm dropping the 2 lowest. So if you've already done all the other weeks, you should be fine. But I just wanted to give people a chance to do packbacks who hadn't been able to before. Yeah, I'll be on. Yeah, I'll be on Twitch when I release the questions.